Hey, welcome to the podcast, Chesco.
Hey man, blessed to be here, bro.
Well, I've got to thank BK for making the suggestion, being like, "Hey, you guys should link up and do a podcast together." And it's like, "Hey, if always welcome to have new guests, but to introduce you to the audience, who do you say you are?"
Man, like you said, shout out to BK, man, for making this happen. I'm really in a place in my life where I'm valuing connections, relationships, and BK is a great man of God, man. And through him I've been able to meet a lot of great people, and just blessed, bro. Just super blessed, man. So shout out to him. And
Nice.
man, who am I, bro? Well, so my name is Franchesco. Some people call me Chesco. Some people call me Let's Go Chesco. I have teenage daughters. Um, I have a little guy. I have another daughter. I'm a financial planner. Help people with the retirement planning, retire tax free, motivational speaker. I have a community where I empower people to celebrate their wins. Like, there's a lot of things that I'm involved in, and there's a lot of titles that I could probably give you, bro. But like, when it all boils down to it, man, if you would like eliminate all that out of my life, I would have to say that who am I? I'm a courageous, enthusiastic man of God that takes intentional action with the gifts that I was given. That's me, bro.
I love it. And definitely looking at your t-shirt, I can say very intentional, busy and blessed.
Hey man, that's my line, man. Everybody always asks me how I'm doing. I always say I'm busy and blessed. And this is a little some of our podcast merch. We'll get into that later. Oh, I'm a
Nice.
podcaster too, bro. I got a podcast also. So, and probably some more things that'll just pop up as we talk.
Got you. I guess on the note of podcasting, like how long you've been doing it and what's your podcast?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's called the value race. It's all about adding value. So we intentionally have conversations wrapped around like serving others and doing things without wanting anything in return. So we have a lot of guests on that do a lot of community work, outreach, and people that have been, became very successful in their craft or their niche, but they all started by serving. And so it's all about adding value and talking about all the places how we can add value. Our slogan is "You can't add more value than me." So my co-host and I, we pretty much like live a certain life to focus on being uncomfortable with our success, and we're open like a book, and we talk about our mistakes. And it's kind of like through our life story, we just continuously bring things to the table every week to have conversations to add value, not only to like the listeners, but it really started because him and I were having really awesome organic conversations together, and we would actually feel so much better as we held each other accountable. We're kind of like those accountability partners that are like really mean to each other, but
Yeah.
like praise each other when nobody's watching. Like we're not in the room. We'll talk nice about each other, but when we get
Yeah.
together, we beat each other up.
Gotcha.
But yeah, it's called the Value Race. We're on episode number 13 right now. Putting a timestamp on it right now, but
Yeah.
yeah, we drop a episode every week. We've been doing it for about 3 months now. Yeah, it's been about 3 months. Seems like everybody had a podcast. And I
Yeah.
was like, man, I wanted to do one. And the problem that I was having was I didn't feel like I'd be able to do it alone because there's just so much involved with it,
Right. Right.
So we started that a couple months ago.
Awesome. And I guess with that, like you said, being able to work with someone that having those organic conversations, it's like you kind of built that rapport. And are you both do you do it in person, like locally?
Yeah, so that's one of the core values of the podcast, which wasn't my. I'll be honest with you, bro. It wasn't my doings. He felt like it'd be best to have only guests that are in person.
Mm.
So if these are people that live in different places, then we have to do one of two things: we have to fly out,
Hmm.
or we have to fly them in. And we've been doing that, which is crazy because it's kind of like at first I was like, how are we going to do that? And
Hmm.
now it's like we're finding a way. It's like that commit and figure it out later type of mentality.
Awesome.
And yeah, we do everything in person, and it's been a wild ride, man. It's been pretty cool. It's been pretty cool.
Nice. And I'm guessing the people kind of gravitate towards it, or like, are how do people kind of see it in your community, since like you talk to people locally and they kind of get to see you when you're out and about doing your thing?
Yeah, for the most part, some of these people, I've been blessed to have had some relationships with people growing up that we all did the wrong thing.
Mm.
And God handpicked a few of us to say, you know what, this was preparation for who I wanted you to become. and I've been able to kind of just reconnect with some of these people later on after it's so wild because like there will be a time frame that goes by and it's like, wow, I didn't know that you were doing this now. I didn't know you were doing that now. And it's so crazy because like I've had to actually go to other cities and meet new people to get reconnected with people that live just down the street from me here now. And it's like it's just crazy how God works, man. So I mean, I live in Tampa Bay.
Yeah.
I'm actually right outside of Tampa in Pinellas County,
Okay.
in St. Petersburg, Florida. And I've been here for about 25 years. So I guess, I'm pretty much a Floridian. I mean, I grew up in New York, but I grew up on Long Island. So everybody I know that kind of like lives in New York, they all say you're not really from New York. You lived on Long Island.
Yeah.
But but I've been here quite some time. And yeah, man. Yeah, it's a lot of the people in person here. There's a lot of cool people around here. So we're probably gonna have to start having more guests fly in or having to fly out. There's some people on my radar, and we've had conversations. It's just now actually doing it. So
Yeah. That's what's up, man. I mean, that's I'd say congrats on that. And that's a great effort, just making not just like, of course, doing the setup for the podcast, doing it in person, and then actually hosting people physically. I've never, well, I haven't done that yet, but that's one of those things where I was like, maybe. But for now, it's on my part, it's Zoom. But kind of thinking about the people that you meet, where I met you through the prayer line, and when you mentioned Tampa and St. Petersburg, I've only been there once, and it was for a family friend wedding. And being a part of Breathe University before through Dr. Eric Thomas, I met Amanda Nelson. I don't know if you ever joined BU, but like I met her through there, and she happens to be in that area, and she was just kind of like top of mind because that's who I'll be featuring on this coming week's episode. And it's neat to see how literally like just through our meeting, it's like, oh, she might be in your neighborhood, and just another
oh
amazing
wow.
person that's like, you never know who you might meet.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah, it's small world, man. It's the world's a lot smaller than you think, man. Especially when you're, in the personal development space and really working on yourself.
Mhm.
It just really shows how a small percentage of people actually are. It feels like everybody is when you're, working on yourself. It's like there's nothing but people selling you courses and different types of places and communities to go, but it's
Right.
really not as big as it seems like.
That's true. I guess I'm kind of curious, like you said, kind of going back to your past and looking forward now where you're at. What's it been like reconnecting with people that you grew up with and you're like, okay, we kind of strayed and now we have like another chance to do something different than where we thought we might be. Say if you grew up and they're like, that's the bad kid. These are the kids that are like the valedictorian. You're like, it maybe it didn't turn out that way.
Yeah, it's pretty wild, man. I'll be honest with you because it's like the transformation that I've seen in myself. I didn't think that I'd see that transformation in other people.
Mm.
The level of change that happened in my life, that what God did with me, and pretty much gave me the opportunity to say, it's like a lot of people say God changed me, but it's like God gave you the opportunity to change. And
Mm.
I really feel like it's up to us to really continue to stay consistent and grow, because we could hit those complacency points and say, you know what, I grew enough. So I've been in places where, man, I've grown, and then it's like I feel like God's telling me to get rid of something else. I'm
Mm.
like, that too? Like, I just did all this work. You want me to do that too? And it's like I'm just letting go more and letting go more and letting go more. And it's like the more I've let go of, the more valuable my relationship with God has been. So it's like when I meet people, I'm like, man, there's no way that he's done this with you too. This is crazy,
Mm.
And one of my friends, actually, that's one of my best friends is Dwight Hines, DJ D Dub,
Yeah.
and actually from meeting him, not even knowing him, like 2.5, 3 years ago, and it was a crazy story how we met. But the DJ that used to hand me, so I was in hip hop, like I wouldn't say the industry, right? We were
Okay.
right there, but all my friends, they were just wanting girls, and just they wanted the attention, and they wanted to be celebrities, right? And they were all, I mean, they were all selling drugs. It was a crazy environment. Some of them passed away, some of them are still in jail. But like the DJ that was really big in this area, when we opened up for really big artists like
Mhm.
Lil Wayne and T-Pain and Young Jeezy and all those artists, right?
Mhm.
The DJ that used to be like called in to do a lot of these big nightclubs and so forth. His name was DJ Win, right?
Mm.
And I knew him for a really long time. He was literally like, "Hey, Chesco, here, mic check this microphone," you know. And I didn't see him for probably about, I don't know, maybe about like 10 years.
Mhm.
And one day it was wild that I looked on DJ D Dub. I looked on Dwight. I call him Dwight, but I
Yeah.
looked on Dwight's page on Instagram page, and I saw it said DJ Win was commenting on there. I was like, wait, why does that name look so familiar? You know. And so I hit up Dwight and said, "How do you know him?" He's like, "Bro, he came up to me the same way you came up to me, how we met at one of the ET events, you know." And
Mm.
yeah, he's a good dude. And this, I'm like, "Bro, he lives around the corner from me." And I started looking. I was like, "What in the world?" Like, he was still making that kind of. He was DJing for like Lil Baby and all these big secular artists at the time.
Mm.
And what was crazy is, like, I looked at it, I said, what was he talking about? God, like everything he's doing is talking about God. Like, is this real? Like, is this real? Is this one of those like things, you know? And where it's cool to be a Christian for a minute. And
Yeah.
I was, it's so wild. I reached out to him. We got to talking. We built a strong relationship. He actually got me into, well, he didn't get me in, but he encouraged me and continued to kind of nudge me to get into the juvenile detention centers to start speaking to kids lately. And I've
Mm.
been doing that all this year. And it's just wild how God works, man. Where, like you said, you know, bringing people back in your life that might have been a different role back then and repositioning them after you've been repositioned is pretty cool how God knows what he's doing, man.
It's pretty dope. I guess I was curious, what's a change that you had to make, or what's an opportunity that you had to change, whether it was moving from Long Island to Tampa or just something that made a difference in your life?
Well, the biggest change in my life, like there was a lot of changes, right, that occurred throughout my life. I would say that I've been like trimmed. I got to be like a pretty close to being like this little perfect bush by now. By as much as God's been trimming me, I feel like and pruning me. But you know, I'm far from that. Obviously, I just know that there's been a lot of adversity that I've faced, and kind of looking at all the different levels of adversity and the changes that I've had to make because of the adversity. I kind of view adversity like a gift now. You know,
Mhm.
I kind of look at it like it's a gift, and it's not to make somebody feel like if they're going through something that it's really a blessing right now. It
Yeah.
may not feel like that, but it's like you could actually use the adversity as a gift, you know, because you can unwrap that adversity and give it to somebody else, you know, and
Right.
help
Right.
somebody else get through what they were going through. So, and for me, it's like the adversity, you won't even get to unwrap the gift if you quit, though, right? You got to keep
Right.
going. So
Right.
for me, all the challenges in my life and the changes that I've had to make have always came to like a rock bottom point, bro. It's so
Mm.
crazy. It's like why did I have to hit so many rock bottoms? Like you hear the stories about people saying, "Hey man, my power went off and I had to, you know, my wife and I had to shower on the side of the house." Ever since then, everything changed. You know, I was suicidal and everything changed, and you know, I lost my job and then everything changed. Like you hear so many people go through these rock bottom moments that are like these coming to Jesus moments, or these moments of where, you know, everything changed in their life. Bro,
Mm.
I've done a dozen of those, you know. And what's so wild is like I get to the point I'm like, how many of them do I have to endure? And
Right.
what's crazy is, bro, I felt like it's like when the analogy I like to use is like I feel like some people rent a house at the rock bottom. I feel like I bought one there. You know what I mean? Like you're
Yeah.
there for a short period of time and then you get to leave. You know, the lease is up. You start, you know, doing your thing.
Mhm.
But for me, man, I've really felt like I stayed in certain places longer than I should have
Mhm.
because I didn't believe that I was deserving of the life that God wanted me to have.
Mhm. I guess maybe a better question on my part would have been, what was the first change, like major change in your life, you had to make, that maybe wasn't comfortable at the time, but then kind of looking back, you're like, mm, it kind of worked out better than I thought it would.
Man, there's a ton on, bro. I mean, looking back, I mean, if we're going back, bro, you know, moving obviously was one thing. But when I moved, bro, it wasn't even so much the moving. Like I grew up an only child, right?
Mhm.
And I grew up as an only child. My mom was going to college for the years that I remembered. Man, it seemed like she was, you know, constantly in school and working, and I was just playing video games. I remember, you know, playing baseball as a kid and getting hit in the head with a baseball, right?
Ooh.
And when I got hit in the head with the baseball, I ran off and I went to my mom and I was like, I don't want to do this. And she said, okay. And she said, okay, right. And
Mhm.
in that moment, as a child, like, I mean, I was like 11 years old, but like at that time, I was kind of like, well, cool. Like when something happens, I could just stop doing it.
Mm.
And in the moment, it might have felt like it was probably a great thing that my mom was being there for me. But
Mhm.
I've realized, bro, that was one of the worst things that ever happened to me because it created a habit of me like starting something and then never finishing it.
Mm.
Right. And what's so crazy is that like for many years, it took me probably 15 years, bro, before I started realizing I had a habit of starting many things
Mhm.
and just never finishing anything. I was like a jack of all trades and a master at none. I
Mm.
would get to a certain point and I would just sabotage myself because I felt a little discomfort.
Yeah.
Um, and there were so many times in my life I can look back from that moment and say, man, I went to Cash Money Records. I was talking to the CEO, Baby. I was supposed to go do that in New Orleans, and when I got there, I turned around because I didn't want to. I didn't want to be there. I was a general manager for a Fortune 500 company called VisionWorks, the optical retailer.
Mhm.
I was a general manager of the year and they wanted to fly me out to San Antonio, Texas to go ahead and receive an award. And I went
Mhm.
to the airport and then I turned around. I didn't even get on the airplane. And it was like, there's a lot of things that were going on in my life in these moments that I utilized the pain and said it was okay to give up.
Mm.
And looking at it now, understand how like when you feel that feeling of discomfort, you lean into it. You lean into it, because it's like all and I got like 17, about 18 now, like little prayer cards. When you go to funerals, you get those little prayer cards and stuff like that people
Mhm.
have when you go to a funeral.
Yeah.
I've had 18 friends that have been my age or a little bit younger, along from, whether I was 15 until now, that I have them all in my top drawer in my bedroom, right? And I think to myself, like one day we're not going to have the opportunity to even make a decision whether we can keep going or not.
Mm.
And it's like for me now, I think about it, it's like when I feel a little discomfort, I really realize that obstacle is the way. And I've realized that like, we spend so much time trying to go around the obstacle
Mhm.
and, just avoid the discomfort. But it's like if we would just actually lean into it, when we go through it, we grow through it, right? And so for me, I've realized that the pain that I felt in a lot of different areas um allowed me to feel uncomfortable, but also feel an opportunity to have faith, and
Right.
and it's been the things that have happened in my life that I thought were going to continue to stop me. I realized the habit of quitting too soon, the shiny object syndrome and stuff like that. And now I can identify that. So it's like it's given me a gift of being able to self-assess myself in moments now where I don't think people really do that, man. I think that I've realized a lot of people, they have discomfort and they sit there and they think about it. And I think a lot, and like one of my favorite quotes that I actually came up with is and I say I came up with because I usually say I didn't make this up, but I want to help make it famous. Like there's a
Mhm.
lot of things that I read, but
Yeah.
there's also a lot of stuff that I've written, and it's like thinking is okay as long as you know when to stop doing it.
Mm.
And for me, I've been an overthinker my whole life. My dad wasn't around. He was actually married with 2 kids and dated my mom on the side,
Mm.
and she just got fed up with it, and we ended up leaving New York because he wouldn't get a divorce and he was still with that family. So it was
Right.
like I would call him and say, hey, you want to hang out, and he'd be with his other family.
Mm.
So for me, I tended to bottle that up and listen to Dr. Dre and Snoop Dogg and Wu-Tang Clan, and that's who really started to raise me, was the rap music, bro. I would
Yeah.
put that on and I would listen to it all day long. My mom would be busy, and
Mhm.
I just got an infatuation with like words and rhymes, and started rapping myself,
Yeah.
and yeah, but the biggest change in those moments, though, bro, it was like going from a single child
Mhm.
to moving to Florida and meeting my mom got married like within 6 months, because as soon as she came down here, she got pregnant with twins,
Mm-hmm.
and he already had two other kids.
Gotcha.
So he had like two older kids. He had a son and a daughter,
Mm-hmm.
which they hated me.
Right.
And all of a sudden, 9 months later, there's twin boys that they just had also. So I went from an only child to having four siblings in like 9 months.
Wow.
That was a big.
That's quick.
That was yeah. And then my older siblings, they hated me. They picked on me. They would tell me to steal and do other things like that to allow me to be cool and fit in.
Mm-hmm.
And I just wanted to live for the acceptance of other people, because I felt like I was rejected for a long time.
I feel that. It's what's interesting about that. I was thinking that more recently, and it's like, I guess as individuals, we seem to do a lot to be accepted by others, and it's a little different for most people, but I guess it kind of comes down to like the same things. Like you do things to fit in. You may feel a bit of discomfort and may not know what to do with it. And I was going to say, not for nothing. I mean, I wouldn't blame you quitting baseball from getting like beamed in the head by a baseball. It's like, gee, I wouldn't just say, okay, yeah, just tough it out, son. Just keep on going. But it's, to your point, it speaks to one of those things where like something small happens, but like if it's not dealt with properly or kind of addressed, it's like if you just get to move away from things that are uncomfortable, um you don't get to learn from them per se. And sometimes it's like, to your point, you shouldn't overthink everything, or like you need to know when to stop, but give time and credence to things that come across your path when it's when it makes sense to. But I think to that point, it's like there's like the negative of like, okay, the baseball, like the rap music, but then like even seeing how rap is portrayed now, and even how some rappers are, like how they reflect on it, people that created it. And it's like, I think this year or maybe last year, like hip hop is turning 50 years old, and seeing
Mm.
how you have people that have like grown up in it, like people that created it as they were adults, and they're like reflecting now to be like, okay, I'm no longer the teenager. I'm no longer the 20 something, the 30 something. Like I'm 50. I got kids. I got grandkids now. It's like, okay, like here's stuff that we do for fun. Here's things that we do. Like here's the business, and here's like the personal life. And people are learning not just how to separate what's important to them or what they value, but they also like with social media and things like this, I think some people are taking a time to teach others and to kind of explain, like you're doing, like, here's what I went through, here's what I learned from it. And um like it's up to the audience to kind of like pull what they can get from it, instead of just saying, okay, like had a terrible life, you're gonna have a terrible life. And like some people, it's like they pass down curses, so to speak, but other people pass down lessons, or they just have a different bag to choose from. I hope that makes sense.
No, it does. Definitely. Most definitely, bro. I can feel that. I can feel that.
Yeah, man. So then going from Long Island to Tampa, you move with mom within 9 months. Mom's married. You got this whole family, four siblings. You guys are still kind of butting heads. Like how did that kind of process for you? Like around what age are you at that time?
Yeah. So moved here. I was 13. Ended up pretty much going straight into to middle school,
Mm,
eighth grade. Pretty much dropped out at that point. I mean, a lot of people say they dropped out of high school, bro. I dropped out of middle school.
mm.
And the problem was that again, it's things started getting difficult. So what did I do?
Walk
So it
away.
was, yeah, it was the same thing, man. So it was like it was that pattern coming back. It's like school got difficult because I skipped one day, I skipped another day, I skipped another day, and all I could think about was when I come back, what is everybody gonna say? Because
Mm,
one of my friends at the time would say, "Hey, man, we see you walking home because it was really close by. We see you walking out of the classroom and leaving the school campus, and we always laugh and say, there goes Chesco." And the teacher used to always say, "Man, there he goes. That dude's gonna be either dead or jail. He's gonna be a zero." And they
man.
used to tell me that like they used to tell my friends that all the time. My friends would tell me that. And so I really allowed everybody else's opinion of me to be my reality. I really didn't really care much about myself. I didn't feel like I had much self-worth. I don't feel like I had somebody to ever teach me discipline in my life at
Mm.
all. So it was like when things got tough, I was able to just kind of go try to check out the easy way, and didn't see the reason for sticking it out. So ended up dropping out of school, started just hanging out, man. Just hanging out. I would just be, smoking weed, listening to music. Started just kind of, selling little bags of weed to bigger bags and things like that. And got to a point where I was just hanging out with the wrong crowd. I got arrested about 3 or 4 times for little dumb things.
Mhm.
Um, and one of them, I mean, was I was well, I was I was stealing. Well, so like my family at that time with all the kids and stuff like that,
Yeah.
they didn't have as much money. Like I wasn't getting catered to the way I was catered to before. It
Right,
was like
right.
when I was younger and I was just an only child. If I wanted a new Nintendo game, I could just probably whine a little bit and I get it.
Mm,
Right. Now it's kind of like, hey, listen, we don't have the funds for that.
mm.
Well, you know what? I'm still listening to the music that's talking about these things. And now as I get older, I'm starting to notice the materialistic things are what's cool, right?
Yeah.
It's a certain types of clothes, it's wearing polo clothes, it's wearing, Jordans, it's whatever it is. And if my parents didn't have it, I had to go get it because I cared more about what people thought about me than I did of myself. So
Mm.
I was really living for acceptance, right, of other
Right.
people. So I would this is crazy, but I'm always transparent and vulnerable, bro. I try to like talk about everything that's happened because then people can really see a massive transformation to see what's possible, right? So
Yeah, yeah.
like I would literally I would run out of the department stores with comforters. Like comforters that you would actually get for your bed, right?
Yeah,
A
yeah.
comforter set.
Right,
Two,
right.
three, $400 comforter set, right? From a designer brand.
Mhm.
And I would take them to other malls and get store credit.
Mm.
So then I would have 3, 4, $500 on store credit to get whatever kind of clothes I wanted. So when I did end up going to high school, because I kind of dropped out of middle school, but nobody really like they just let me go to high school, which was crazy. Like I just ended up going to high school. Like I
Yeah.
mean, so I went to high school. I had to look good, even though I didn't care about school. I still had to look good. So I made sure that
Mhm.
I dressed well, no matter what it took. And we used to, hustle like we'd get cartons of cigarettes and we'd sell the packs of cigarettes to the kids in the parking lot.
Yeah.
We would just do whatever it took to make money at that point. I guess I had that entrepreneurial spirit,
Right.
Um, and so going from that point, I ended up getting in trouble at school, ended up getting kicked out of that school, ended up going to another school that I got kicked out of that school. And then I was in a school where it was like everybody that was coming out of the juvenile detention centers, that was the school that they went to. So it was like all the bad kids because I had gotten arrested numerous times and they
Mhm.
were pretty. I ended up getting kicked out of that school too. And I ended up having to do school at home all over the phone. It was crazy. Like we didn't have the internet like the internet is now, And so
Right.
we had a phone that I'll be on speakerphone doing school.
Mm.
And about that time, I was like 16 and I was like, man, this is crazy. I heard you can get your GED. So I must have been bright because I went ahead and got my GED and I passed it on the first try.
Mhm.
Right. And I ended up walking with the class before I was supposed to even walk with. And I was like,
Mm.
this is pretty wild. So then I ended up just saying, you know what? I'll try this out. I'll go to college. Right.
Mhm.
Ended up, my mom was like, hey, if you're going to live here, you got to go to college or you got to get out. Right.
Yeah.
And so I ended up going to college, but then I ended up meeting people that were like just rapping in little circles. I was like, what are they doing over there? You know what I mean? What's going on over here? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
what's going on? I could do that. I could do that. And it kind of caught on. People were like, man, you're pretty good at this. So I ended up going into the tough parts of town, I would say, in people's houses, bro, like stepping over people that I never met before, kind of looking up at me with guns on their lap and like say, oh, you gonna rap in here? And I'm like, yeah, this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm doing, right?
Mhm.
And I would go in there and I'd start rapping. Everybody say, wow, man, you're pretty good, right? We ended up like forming a rap group at the time, and we started opening up for all these major artists, going all over the place, man. We started winning awards. We would actually choreographer, like we would like have choreography in our songs. So we would like do certain dances. Like there was a song about robbing each other. So we'd
Mhm.
have like one guy that he put on a ski mask. We all went on the ground. He would pat us down, take all of our jewelry. Like we had like a show,
Mm.
and a lot of people loved it. We met a lot of people. That's where I met DJ Win, and like I was saying, and just a lot of people in those moments.
Yeah.
But a lot of people ended up getting arrested, going to jail. A few of our friends were killed. And in that moment, I was like, man, let me go do my own thing. So I started making my own music, which wasn't so violent, I would say. And I was probably talking about stuff that I wasn't doing. Let's keep it real, right? Let's keep it real, bro. I mean,
Right.
like I got to the point where I probably had like 20, 30 pounds of weed in the back of my Caprice Classic, and things like that. But I didn't have assault rifles, and and I was murdering people and all that stuff that I was yapping about, right?
Yeah.
So I was like, dude, it's time to keep it real. You know what I mean? Like, bro, it's not you. So
Yeah.
I said, what would happen if I actually made a song that was like more like, how do I say, more made for commercialized, let's say,
Yeah.
right? Like commercialized. So I had this idea, and I was like, man, what if I made a song for like the football team here? What if I made a song for the Bucks?
Hmm.
That'd be pretty cool.
Hmm.
And a friend of mine was like, what about the Rays, man? They just changed their name from the Tampa Bay Devil Rays to the
Hmm.
Tampa Bay Rays.
Hmm.
And I was like, yeah, it might be cool. All right, cool. So I made a rap song about the Rays. It
Yeah.
was like, we got a new name, now we're here to change the game.
Hmm.
Right. And it was pretty catchy. I even did a little rendition of the seventh inning stretch.
Hmm.
I was like, take me out to the Rays game and instead of the ball game. And I ended up bringing it to the stadium, and the vice president of like the fan experience, I think that was his position at the time.
Hmm.
He was like, man, this is good. And I was like, really? And he was like, yeah, this is good. And I was like, okay, well, what do you want to do? He's like, sign this waiver. And I'm like, all right, cool. I didn't even pay attention to the fact that it's just saying, hey, you don't own any of this anymore. We're
Hmm.
going to take all of it, and, have a nice day.
Yeah.
So I'm like, all right, cool. So I sign it. He's like, all right, cool, awesome. He's like, I'm going to give you and your family a bunch of tickets. And I'm like, okay, that's cool.
Yeah.
They played that song, bro. The year they went to the World Series, the Rays went to the World Series, 2008, right? They
Wow.
played that song. Every single palm tree, bro. There's a bunch of palm trees that go to the stadium. Every single game for 2 years straight,
Hmm.
they played that song in so like if you went to a Tampa Bay Rays game in 2008 or 2009,
Hmm.
like you heard me rapping,
Wow.
like you heard a song and it was me rapping, right? And they used to play the video. We made a little cheesy home video with like a little Sony Handycam, like we were on the interstate rapping in front of the dome and stuff like that, cars flying by.
Hmm.
But we ended up doing that, and yeah, that was pretty cool. And then I got into like, just, I guess you could say, uh, uh, um a disagreement. We'll say that, a disagreement with a
Hmm.
big radio DJ here, right?
Hmm.
And that pretty much made me feel like I wasn't gonna be able to pursue it any longer. And at that time, to be honest with you, like my first daughter was born in 2007 and my second daughter was born in 2009. So around that time, I was like, man, life's got to change.
Yeah.
Life's got to change, right? And I started reevaluating everybody around me. And I mean, I could keep going with this
Right.
story. What
Right.
happens here is crazy, but if you want to stop me, you can too.
No, no, you're good. I guess I'll just interject real quick to say I think one of the things that you're doing that I appreciate is that for people that pay attention, and it's not, I don't think you're glorifying the things that you did. I mean, some people maybe glorify the life that they live because it's like you grow up in an environment and that's all you know. Like your music influences you and different things like that. You want to fit in with your friends. And I think in a way you kind of speak to the pain or the needs that like people have, like when you're in your adolescence, when you're a teenager, when you're kind of going into adulthood. It's like you always have a need to fit in with your group, because it's like if you don't fit in with that group, you need to fit in with another group, otherwise you're kind of on the outside. You don't want to be like how would they say, a deserter or a roamer, or like if you're maybe, I'm trying to think of a word that's not homeless, but someone like a drifter. That might be the word. Like usually those people are looked on, they're not looked on very favorably. So it's like that's why
Mm-hmm.
I think we have a tendency to like want to gravitate to something, and like the things that capture your attention might be commercialized, or like, okay, now this has a bad rep. But like if you're a child not getting the attention that you need, like no one's there to tell you, okay, hey, don't do this because this is better. This is not only better because it's good for you, but like here's why it's cool, here's why it's attractive, here's why
Yep.
like it can rival this other thing. It's like
Yep.
nobody wants to do the nerdy thing, so to speak, or just be like, oh, okay, just do right. But I mean, like I grew up on the other side, so to speak, where it's like I was of the mindset that um I enjoyed school and I grew up with the notion that like school, like education and God were kind of like the two things that we grew up with in our household. And it was just what you did. Like you didn't necessarily have to enjoy it, but it was just what you had to do. And like for me, around the time you're talking about, I was just graduating high school, going into college, and like being introduced to rap music for the first time. It's like, oh wow, this is like it kind of just gets into you. It's like, man, this is catchy. Like I don't know anything about that life, but it's like I kind of like how they're rapping. I like how they're putting words together, like having a chance to go to ciphers in college and like post college and just seeing like how people move. It's like there's the bad, but to your point, it's like having a chance to like evaluate, pick and choose what works for you. And maybe uh, if you would continue with the story there, kind of like from the time that you saw, okay, your daughter's being born, you're starting to have kids,
Mm.
you're seeing that now you have to be concerned with someone else other than yourself. Like what um why did you find that it was important to make that change? I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's like something was physically changing in your life, and you're like, okay, all this other stuff isn't working for me, so I got to do something else.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And so at that time, like I said, my second daughter was born. And between the two, so they're 15 months apart. And my wife at the time,
Hmm.
she got laid off from her job, right? And
Hmm.
she made pretty good money.
Yeah.
My job was just kind of like I was still I actually had gotten into real estate in 2008,
Hmm.
but real estate was not great in 2008. Like
Right.
that,
Right.
you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
we know.
Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, it's pretty crazy. That wasn't the best time to jump in there, but um, so I ended up having to get a second job. So I got two jobs, right?
Hmm.
And my stepbrother, the one that I told you we didn't really have much of a great relationship all the time, but
Yeah.
he actually came to me because he was like a manager at the optical company VisionWorks at the time,
Hmm.
and he told me, he's like, man, you'd be really good at sales. And I'm like, okay, let's try some sales. So I did it part-time for a while. I started doing really well. I started working like 5 to 8 every Monday through Friday, and I'd work at my other job from 7 to 3:30, and then I'd go straight to my other job, be working two jobs. I did that for about 6 months. Did really well. I moved up. I was able to let go of the other job, got full time with VisionWorks.
Hmm.
And then after I was working there, I moved up to like a assistant manager. Then
Hmm.
I got a retail manager job. And then I ended up getting my own store. So I moved all the way up from just a part-time associate to becoming a general manager. Um, and in those moments, I started to realize that it was pretty cool because I never really had anybody that showed me that more is possible. And I think what I was telling you earlier was like, there was a lot of things that I saw people have, but I just didn't think that I deserved it. I never really gave myself permission to
Yeah.
say that, you know what, you're allowed to have this too. And the reason is because I was still living around. I mean, I was still around so many people that made a lot of excuses
Hmm.
about where they were and blamed everybody else. Right.
Yeah.
And so for me, I didn't even know, and this is something that's kind of like I like to mention, but it's crazy. In around that time, I didn't even know what the word accountability meant.
Mm.
I didn't know what the word accountability meant, right? And now I literally have it on my wristbands. It says I take accountability on my wristbands, right?
Yeah.
And what's so wild is that the young lady that came to me when I finally went full time, she goes, I see so much potential inside of you. I don't even think you see it in yourself. And my goal is to kind of help you see that so I can help you grow.
Mm.
Like 6 months later, she's telling me to do all these things that are so uncomfortable. She's like, well, you're going to have to help me hire this person. You're going to help me go out here and do outreach. You're going to have to go, do this job fair. You're going to have to host these conference calls. And I'm like, oh my God, I like, and holding me to this massive standard. And I hated her. I literally hated her, bro. Like, I was like, who is this woman? Like she's evil. You know what I mean? Like she's just constantly making me uncomfortable, putting me in these uncomfortable situations.
Right.
And and it's so wild when I look back now. I'm like, man, that was probably the first woman that really held me accountable to something. You know what I mean? And that's why I grew. And it's like I didn't like her at first because she was holding me accountable, right?
Yeah.
And so I ended up growing there. I got my own store. I became a general manager after that. So I was actually managing a doctor's office, a lab, and a retail sales floor. Moved up to the largest store in Tampa. And when that happened, about 6 months later, another store closed down, and they had to bring their store and their doctor and everybody into our store. So our store ended up becoming just extremely busy. Had to fire everybody, revamp, do a whole bunch of different levels of sales training, kind of reset the culture for the store and everything that we had going on. And through all of that, I was able to actually achieve to make that store the most profitable store in the whole company.
Yeah.
I became general manager in the year. So this was like 4 years that went by. It was like about 2013. I'm going through this process. I'm starting to transform because lately I would actually, and that's where I actually found out about ET was about 2013. Right.
Yeah.
And this was around the time where he was like doing just little low level videos with like Carl, at Michigan State University, and some of the mixtapes that they were making at the time, it seemed like it was just somebody else taking their stuff. He made his own little beats and I would listen to that stuff. I was like, man, this is really good. Like, this makes me feel like I'm excited. You know what I mean? I'm like excited to live,
Right.
And so I ended up buying a new car when I got promoted, and I quit smoking cigarettes. I smoked cigarettes for 16 years and I quit smoking cigarettes. And I would drive an hour to my store and an hour back, and I would either be listening to Eric Thomas or Jim Rome, or it was fantasy football podcasts. That was the only things I would listen to at that time. I stopped listening to music.
Yeah.
And but through that ride, man, I would listen to like what ET would be saying, and I'd take those principles and I would actually go back to my job. And and granted, I was very uncomfortable like speaking to even small groups of 5, 10, 15, even though I had been on stage in front of thousands of people in the past, because I thought that I still was the same guy to the people when they saw me, right? Like even when I talk now, you can tell that, I may not be the, you can hear some of the background into me, I'm sure. But like at the end of the day, I used to think that when I would speak to people, when I had a suit and tie on, that they still saw the other guy that had a tall tee on that matched his Jordans with his hat sideways, and he's got his middle finger up in the air on the stage, right? So what was crazy is that like I used to be really insecure about it. Yeah. And I started having a little bit of anxiety about things as I continued to grow, because like all the people that I would talk to at work, they were wanting to grow. I was teaching them how to do sales, and they were getting promoted. So a lot of these people, man, like I would find them at Lowe's and Home Depot. I'd go out recruiting at Walgreens, CVS, all these different places, and I would hire them. I would train them. They pretty much take the same process that she taught me. And I would do the same thing with them. And now they were really successful. But then I'd like come home and be like, man, guess what? This person, I did this. And I would come home and like, I was still hanging out with the wrong people. Like my house was a place where everybody wanted to come hang out on the weekends, because my wife at the time, she was an alcoholic, man. Like it'd be Friday night and she's in there making, like Thursday night, she'd make these things called Jello shots, where they put alcohol in the Jello. She put them in the freezer. And then over the weekend, people would come over. She's just handing them out. Just and hey, man, she was a lot of fun, but the fun never turned off, right? It never turned off. Like it was all the time. And it got to a point where, man, I would come home from working and they'd be like, hey, I'm going out. And I'm like, oh my God. And before you know it, I got like 3 or 4 of my friends' kids with my kids all in sleeping bags on my living room floor, and everybody out is going out partying. And I'm like, what are y'all doing? And that caused a lot of tension, because people would be getting in trouble, DUIs, wouldn't have a license, like, and everybody was kind of feeling like that was normal.
Mhm.
And I was starting to realize like the person that I used to be, I'm still hanging with the same people that I was. But
Mhm.
now while I'm starting to become, more of a disciplined, responsible adult,
Mhm.
um, you can't have the same people around you or else you're going to feel uncomfortable. Right.
Right,
So
right.
that's where a lot of the tension happened. And so I would literally listen to educational podcasts and audiobooks and YouTube videos about wanting to grow. And everybody would just say, like, shut up, bro, drink this, smoke this, like you sound outrageous. Like you're not gonna be all that, bro. You're lucky you even made it this far.
Mhm.
And it got to the point where I just couldn't take it anymore. And I started having extreme anxiety, bro. Like to the point where it was so bad. It was so bad, bro. Like I wouldn't be able to even leave the couch, like
Mhm.
to check the mail or walk the dog without feeling like I was having a heart attack in the driveway. And I'd run back inside and go lay down on the couch again.
Mhm.
And I couldn't go to work for like 2 weeks. My boss was like, listen, whatever you need to do to take some time off, take care of yourself. Right.
Yeah.
And I thought it was work. I thought I was just stressed out of work. Right. I didn't know. I didn't know what anxiety was. I didn't know what depression was. I didn't know what panic attacks were. I didn't know what any of that was. But it's
Mhm.
exactly what I was going through at the time. And the doctors would tell me that, hey, man, yeah, you got anxiety disorder. You got major severe panic disorder. This is something you're going to have to deal with. Here, take this medication, take this medication, and take this medication.
Mhm.
And I felt better, like, a couple days later. But bro, I started transforming into a zombie, man. Like I
Yeah.
started realizing like I'm like just like half asleep half the time. And I just it was almost like instead of dealing with the problem, we're
Mhm.
gonna go ahead and deal with the side effects.
Right,
We're gonna,
right.
of the problem. And the problem was that I knew that I was in an environment that I can no longer be in.
Right,
But
right.
the side effects from it were the panic attacks, and they were just taking care of that. So my therapist at the time was like, "Yeah, you just probably need to be relaxed a little more," because I wasn't being that open. I wasn't as
Mhm.
vulnerable as I am now. As
Right,
as
right,
men, it takes a lot for us to finally open up and say, "Hey, listen, this is what I'm going through."
right.
So at the time, it just everything was kind of sugar coated. It got to the point where it was so bad, man. I'll never forget. Like there was a weekend that a lot of my friends, they would all go to these springs. One of my best friends, he was actually at my wedding. It was his birthday. And
Mhm.
everybody would go to the springs up in Gainesville. And it was over the summer. And I said I wasn't going. And I was like, how can you not go? Like we all go. We go party. Like this is what we do, right? And I'm like, no, I'm staying home.
Mhm.
And I stayed home because I was so freaked out about having panic attacks. It wasn't that I didn't want to hang out with them. I felt like I was stuck. Like I was married. I had to stay married. You don't get a divorce. That's just
Mhm.
not, you're not allowed to. It's just what it is, right?
Yeah.
But then there were some crazy moments, man, like crazy moments. So much alcohol being consumed to the point where I didn't want to drink ever again. And my ex-wife, I mean, there'd be nights where I'll just say there was like some wild nights, man, that caused me to really realize that I'm not safe,
Yeah.
and I got to get out of this. And I ended up finally, man. It took like that weekend. My mom came over actually and like hung out and talked to me a while. And my mom's a licensed clinical social worker. She got her master's in psychology. So maybe that's a lot of the reason why I was always in my head. It was always
Mhm.
like, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about it? Everything was a conversation,
Mhm. Mhm.
and in those moments she kind of helped coach me through the time to realize that it was enough. But even after when my wife came back and everybody came back, I still felt like I was stuck, like there was nothing I could do about it. It took
Right.
her having to say, you know what, I can't be with you anymore in order for me to leave. Like it wasn't even me, bro. It's
Yeah.
so crazy. Like you would think because of me being so codependent. I was more concerned about her and her well-being than I was my own well-being.
That makes sense.
And but going through that process, man, we ended up going through a divorce that lasted 2.5 years. It was bad, like it was really bad, man. I lost everything, sold everything. Everything went to lawyer fees. It got to the point, bro, where I just couldn't take it anymore. I got my own place. And I thought I was good because I had a little bit of money,
Mhm.
but it's like I knew what I was supposed to be doing,
Mhm.
but I wasn't applying it.
Yeah.
Like I listened to everything that you could possibly listen to and read everything you could possibly read, but I just wasn't applying it. and I got frustrated with myself, and I beat myself up so bad. I didn't forgive myself for anything. I said everything was my fault. Like I
Mhm.
took accountability, but almost more accountability than I should have,
Right.
in the sense of not actually understanding that, hey, listen, it's going to take a little bit of time. Like you can't take accountability for the speed.
Yeah.
It's like we're responsible for the grinding, but God's responsible for the timing.
Mhm.
Like we can't be responsible for when things change. We can only be responsible for us doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And so in that moment, I wanted everything right away, bro. I had that microwave mentality. It's like a little bit of adversity and things got to change, right? I mean, it's been happening ever since I was 11.
Mhm.
So I lost it, bro. I couldn't take it anymore. This was like a really, really down moment for me. I actually had I had a 9 millimeter Springfield um M model. Holds like, I think it was like 19 in the clip and stuff like that.
Mhm.
And it was like a weekend. It was a middle. It was like July like 24th or 25th of 2017. And I didn't have my kids with me. And it Luis, we had been like eating cereal, you know what I mean? Like every day, bro, like
Mhm.
just eating cereal. And I just felt less than as a man, like as a father, you know what I'm saying? I was like, man,
Right.
I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. My daughters are not living the way they're supposed to be living. I just screwed up, man. I just screwed up. I just can't take this anymore. So I kind of wrote a letter, saying I'm not gonna be here anymore, and like really kind of wrote out like a little will. I didn't even know what a will was at the time, or a
Mhm.
trust or any of that stuff like I do now. But I mean, at that moment, I was just like, I can't take it anymore. So I literally like, I even bought some hollow points. If you know what hollow points are, they're the type of bullet that, they, when they go in, it's kind of like a little pea, and they come out and it's like a watermelon,
Mhm.
So
Right.
I
Right.
was like, let me go ahead and buy some of those. So, if I do commit suicide, I'll know that it'll work and I won't have to worry about
Mhm.
nothing.
Right. Right.
So in that moment, that's, I mean, and it's, I don't need to get into the graphics of all of that, but I mean, I ended up actually putting it in my mouth and pulling the trigger and wondering why I was still alive, and I forgot to cock it back.
Mhm.
So in all reality, in that moment, I was like, wow, like I literally like just killed myself. Like I was prepared for that, and like I guess God told me just don't remember to cock it back, right? So then I cocked it back again. And then I went ahead and I said, all right, I'm done. And I did it again and I put it in my mouth. And all of a sudden, boom, boom, boom. And it wasn't the gun, it was the front door. And I looked through the window, it was my kids.
Oh wow.
And I was like, man, it's my daughter's right there. Like, what are we doing? So I immediately fumbled it down, put it down, whatever, whatever. And I went to the door and I was like, what's going on? It was my ex-wife. She's like, listen, I've been trying to get a hold of you. I got to drop them off a day early because I'm going out of town. So can you take them? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And so they ran upstairs and like reality set back in. It's like I was in a place where I was disoriented and I
Mhm.
was just like, creating my own reality in my head on how I didn't deserve to be here. And then like right when they came in, she's like, yeah, all right. And I'm like, yeah, I'm fine. I wasn't all right, but I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I'm fine. And she's like, all right, see ya. Boom, shuts the door and she took off. And in that moment, I sat back down. I just started crying. I walked out back, started crying. And I just felt like the voice of God, like just telling me, like, you're literally about to throw away things that some people will pray for and never even receive.
Mhm.
Like, not even the fact that you're not grateful, but you know how many people pray to have children and never have children? You know how many people pray for the gifts and the abilities that you have and they'll never receive, never have that? Like,
Mhm.
there's people that are not going to even have half of what you've been given, and you're going to throw that away because you can't realize how amazing it is, right?
Yeah.
And in that moment, I was like, man, I need to be grateful. Like, I need to be grateful, right? And that's the moment where everything changed for me, bro. Because like I really then in that moment was like, if I was supposed to go, I would have went,
Mhm.
but God's not done with me yet.
Yeah.
And I say it all the time. Like, if you woke up today, God's not done with you yet. Matter of fact, he's just getting started. It's something I chant. I say, like, today's the gift that God gave us. And what we do with today is our gift back to God. It's like I just chant these things, bro, because it's like it keeps me back in that mindset of understanding like things do get difficult still, bro.
Mhm.
Things are always going to be difficult. They're going to get more difficult. I mean, like, you and I could probably go meet at the gym if we wanted to right now. There'll be a day where we won't have that chance because we just won't have the body to do it.
Right.
So it's like, what are we doing with our body while we still have the opportunity, And so for me, I go back to that moment all the time. of gratitude. And there's been so many things along that journey to continuously remind me of it and help other people remind them of the same.
Yeah. I guess I kind of want to linger on this a little bit because I know, like, in describing where you were in your mindset, where it's like your environment's already hectic, you're having to war with yourself, and not only that, but you're just feeling to the point where you're defeated. Because I think we've talked about this on the line more recently, and I've kind of tapped into here. It's like this is the place where a lot of men are. And I think, I don't know if it's May or September, that's like the suicide prevention month. But um I guess, like, noticing that you had to be grateful. I don't know if that switch happens automatically, but I think something that you described with, like, your wife, you kind of have to put on a front to say, okay, yeah, I'm good, because, like, I have to address what's going on right now. I've got kids coming in. Like, you're not really looking to hear my pain, my struggle, what I just attempted to do. But it's like, I need to focus on this. And I think it's a beautiful thing that God intervened and you were able to kind of see things in that moment, because
Crazy, bro.
otherwise it's like it takes I'm sure, and things didn't just switch automatically then and like forever
Oh
on. You're
no,
like,
bro. It's still
I'm
to
good
this
to go.
day, man. I got to remind myself every single day, man. I mean, like,
Right.
yeah.
But I guess that's kind of why I wanted to linger on that. And it kind of explains how we started at the start and why you say what you say, because I think sometimes when um I think it has more so to do with where people are when they hear other people say things that may seem cliche, and they don't really get like the background story and like understand, okay, these are the steps that Francesco took. Like, this is the life that he had, and this is why these changes came about. Or, like, with the changes that came, these are the different decisions that he chose to make, and that's why he's the person that he is today. It's not just
Hmm.
like it's not a front, it's not like an act, it's a process that different people go through. And I think being able to see the world through other people's eyes, or like being able to hear other people, it kind of reminds you that, like, we're not that different, and it really is a small world. And just being able to appreciate where people are, and um not not having to, you don't always have to relate to someone else to have like the exact same experience. But like, as you're talking, I can I can feel the, like, the sentiment of like, okay, like, I'm either doing all I can do, or I'm kind of just tired. I'm trying to get help, but the help isn't helping. Like, no one's in a place to be like, okay, hey, these things, like the attention on mental health that has been placed nowadays wasn't the focus then. Like, where technology is now wasn't there in 2008. And it's like
For
the
sure.
world kind of progresses as we go on, and we learn things as we go along the way. And I think it's a beautiful thing that um those that are here, like us being here, being able to have this conversation, is able to help someone else tomorrow, or help someone else today, because it's, you don't know what you don't know. And I think, kind of going back to ET, is kind of like that triple darkness thing. And it's not always, maybe in the times that we need it, like, you don't have the right book, you don't have the right quote that's just like, aha. But like, sometimes there are those divine intervention moments that come in out of our control, and they kind of help nudge us along to be like, hey, go this way, not that way. It's like, okay, hey, like, I know you might be like hazy, you might be like, your mind might be all scrambled, you might be down on yourself and things like that. But it's like, you get a breath, you get a moment to choose. Like, just ease back a little bit before you feel that you have to like keep going down like a predetermined route of like, okay, pain, 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 pain. Or it's like, avoid the pain, avoid the pain, avoid the pain. It's like, a baseball wasn't the way, but okay, I can walk away from drugs. Or it's like, okay, of all things, to have a career change where it's like you didn't get along with your brother, but then
Hmm.
again, dealing with that, even maybe not dealing with it, but at least being presented the opportunity of like, hey, like try the sales thing. It's helping you and your family. And then you meet this person that you can't stand. And for some reason, it's always the people that we can't stand that kind of have that impact on us to like show you,
Crazy,
okay,
right?
like they bring the things out of you that you don't see in yourself. And just being able to experience those things and kind of be reminded of them and being able to share that with someone else. I think it's very powerful and it's inspiring. And I think that speaks to why you do what you do now, whether it's podcasting or motivational speaking or just being able to speak to what other people have going on. And this thought kind of came to my mind as I was getting ready to start recording again. And I was just like, if I were to ask you, what pain do you think you, or no, what is your pain that you live through now or kind of speak to in your work?
A few things, right? So right now I'm kind of working on my frameworks for really looking at exactly what can I help people get through, right?
Mm,
And there's a lot to continue to unpack that I've gone from that point on. Even from like one of my friends, he passed away in a motorcycle accident in 2014, 2015. I ended up getting my life insurance license at that point, started selling life insurance. And right before around that same time frame when, you know, I was talking about we started going through that divorce process. 6 months before that, with all the anxiety and stuff, I thought it was my job. So I ended up leaving my job to go actually full-time sell life insurance.
mm,
And then 6 months later, I'm in the middle of a divorce. So I went straight to an entrepreneur after having a consistent job for the past decade. And 6 months later, here I am going through the divorce process also. But what was cool is that it actually brought me back to the church because I started working for an actual Catholic church organization called the Knights of Columbus,
mm,
which was a nonprofit company that sold life insurance. So
mm,
it actually brought me back to God in the moments to where I was lost. So what was really it's like we can't tell what's going to happen tomorrow, right? But it's like
right,
when you look
right.
back, you can kind of see where God's like churches, bro, that you could think about, or in the Christian religion that you know, or I wouldn't say religion, but I'm just saying there aren't any too many religions, or even in the Christian faith, period, that you're gonna find some God bringing you back to one of these places because they sell life insurance.
Mm,
You know, it's like I had my insurance license. If it wasn't for me leaving there, I
mhm,
wouldn't have had the flexibility to have 50-50 custody either.
mm,
You know, so it's like there's so many realms there, right? But going back to what you asked me, man, what would I be speaking on? And a lot of it is just really, man, like gratitude's huge. You know, gratitude's really huge, bro.
mhm,
It's like if we continue to focus on all the things that we don't have, bro, we're always gonna feel less than. But it's like we have so much right now that we may not ever get. Like, I mean, sometimes we get so caught up looking into the future that we forget that we're actually living in the moments that we actually once prayed for.
mhm.
And so the whole frameworks that I talk about is take ownership, take action, take off. And the ownership piece is the accountability, you know, is really
Yeah.
just not only just looking at your situation and saying, I'm going to take ownership for it, but it's forgiving yourself, bro, and
Mm,
forgiving everybody else around you. Like that's something that I talk about a lot, man, because I've realized that just recently, it took me 4 or 5 years, bro, to not hate my ex-wife,
mm,
to eliminate the anger from her. And what helped me, and it might sound selfish, but bro, I realized that as I started to not really want to control her life, I started to create peace in mine.
mm,
And it was like, my kids are with her half the time. She's still around people that do drugs. She still has a brother on the couch that goes in and out of rehab that, you know, is shooting needles up. And I've called the state and told them straight up, hey, listen, this is what's going on. They go over there and then nothing's going on. You know, it's like there's so many things I try to control. I even took my daughters to counseling,
mhm,
and they're like, hey, you know, I got them into counseling, and then they get into counseling, and then it's like the counselor ends up calling the state. And then after they called the state because they heard that she was drinking and driving with one of my kids in the car, what's crazy is that then they were like, all right, well, there's nothing wrong again.
Mm.
And it's like, here I am trying to control all that. And I have many people that are like, man, you got to get custody, you got to get custody, you got to get custody.
Right.
And it's one thing if I have to get custody because I've noticed my children following in those footsteps,
Mhm.
but it's another thing that like I've noticed the more I forgive and the more
Mhm.
peace I have and the kinder I am, the more my kids are like, what's going on here? And now
Mhm.
my daughters are actually taking more of a role of understanding that they're like, hey, mom, you're not driving. Like my daughter
Mhm.
has a permit.
Mhm.
And bro, I just get transparent, bro. Like my daughter has a permit. She's not supposed to be driving at night, but her
Mhm.
mom was drunk. So she said, get in the passenger seat. I'm driving.
Mhm.
So my kids might have had to grow up fast, but they're being responsible.
Yeah.
It's like if maybe, you know, and I have people that have told me, hey, you need custody, you need to get custody, you need to get custody. It's like my kids are 14 and 15. I've kept a close radar on them and been able to control their life in a sense,
Right.
but eliminating my ex-wife's life, you know, and it's allowed me to create peace in mind. So when I say taking accountability, it's like take accountability for what you can,
Right.
not the things that you can't, because some of
Yeah.
these things only God can take care of, right? And we
Yeah.
got to have faith. But so with my daughters, it's like and some people may, you don't have to agree with me, you know, on this. Like some people are like, no, that's crazy. Like you need
Right.
to go
Right.
do this, you know. So I'm not saying that, but I mean, for me, I've noticed the adversity made me stronger, bro. The adversity was a gift in my life. So why would I want to take my kids away from the adversity?
Mm.
Now, granted, if it's unsafe and it's dangerous, yes, there were some times like that. And I did everything I could, but
Mhm.
nothing would change. And now
Right.
I look at it like maybe it's a blessing that God's giving them to say, hey, listen, you keep going down this road, you're going to live like this.
Yeah.
And even my oldest daughter even said, you know, hey, I'm not going to live that way. I'm not going to do that. That's not going to happen. There's no way. Like I see the difference in lifestyles and so forth. And we have a strong relationship because of that. But yeah, so accountability is huge, right? Because we
Mhm.
can only be, you know, we can only take accountability for really what we can control.
Right.
Um and then
And I,
taking action obviously
yeah.
is the next step that I talk a lot about. I talk a lot about, you know, don't wait 3 years to do something that takes 3 minutes.
Yeah.
I had a really big fallout with my dad. That and again, like I told you before, I mean, you know, I didn't really have a great relationship with him growing up, but I tried to reconcile that a little bit. And Dwight even hit me up one time because he knew I was wrestling with it. I
Mhm.
remember calling him and I was like, man, like, like I don't know if I want to call my. He's like, bro, don't call me anymore till you call him.
Mhm.
And I was like, man, that's good friends, bro. You know what I mean? He's like, just call him. Like, who cares what happens? You're trying to control the outcome, thinking that when you do call him, this is going to happen.
Yeah.
Who cares about the outcome? You know, just do what you're supposed to be doing, you know? So taking action in my portion of my frameworks is just really doing that because you don't know what you can't control the outcome, but you can control the output, right?
Yeah. Or the
And
input.
the input, correct. Yeah. So yeah, man. So but there's a lot that happened within that span
Yeah.
too, like, you know,
But
and so forth. But
I think I think the main thing that kind of jumps out to me, and I don't know if I'm trying to shoehorn this in or just make this fit or something, but
no, you're good, bro. I yeah, and
if I could call it anything, I would maybe call it the pain of acceptance. And in the way, like when you talk about accountability, and it's like to be accountable, like to your point, you had to accept that you could only be accountable for what you have to contribute, what you can do. And
mhm,
with that, it's like you have to maybe with the accountability, with the discipline, you establish boundaries for yourself. And it's like the boundaries you learn to place on yourself, um, it kind of informs the people around you, like how they can treat you, how they see you. And
mhm,
then when it moved less from, okay, you try to like raising kids, I'm sure you try to place boundaries on your kids as to like, okay, these are the rules that I'm laying down and things like that.
yeah,
But as you talked about practicing forgiveness over the years and learning to actually um, give grace and just focus more on what you have to do. Like you're doing it for, like you can want to do things for other people, but more effort, it looks like you try to put into doing your job or your part. It, it seemed to bless you back in the way of like, okay, the things that I may call the system or call this, it's like, okay, it's only going to go so far. There are limitations, but at least if I'm controlling this, my kids get to see this version of me. And then the wife or ex-wife may think about me, what she does or may not think, but it's like that's not something I can control, and I have to be okay with that. And just
Mm-hmm.
being able to find that peace, it's like, yeah, I guess the pain of acceptance is something, but to your point, being uncomfortable, it's like pain isn't always a bad thing. It's like a teacher, and it's something that you can learn from. And instead of just being like, okay, ow, this hurts, I don't want to feel this anymore. It's like, okay, here's something that I get to accept. Here's something I get to move on from, and here's maybe what I take with me. So we can look at, okay, life was terrible. Here's all the bad things. And it's like, okay, I still have a life. I'm still here. I have the reminders of my friends that aren't here. I know the background, the stories of like, okay, I knew this person in this life, but now they're living a different life. And it's like, if I've changed, they've changed. And it's like, I'm not the only one. So it's like if there's hope for me, there's there's hope for other people out there. And I think that that's a powerful message. And it's like until hearing it, um, hearing someone mention the acceptance part of the serenity prayer, and just like you talking about the changes that you've had to make, and just the pivot points in your life where it's like it's not a one and done, and it just keeps coming and it keeps coming, but as it's going, like you're learning to let go of certain things, and you're learning to hold on to things that are steadfast and just keeping you forward. I think that
Yeah, I mean,
that's
I,
amazing.
I I I continuously always look at it like, like if I hold on to the things that are holding me back, my hands will be full, and I can't hold on to what God has in store for me either.
Mm,
It's kind of like a mental visual analogy like that I give myself, is like this illustration in my head of me like holding on to things that I need to let go. And lately I've been kind of using a phrase saying check the date. Like
mm,
everything in life has an expiration date. Like it's almost like our life is like a refrigerator, and there's things that are in there that are expired. We're wondering why it's bad. It's because we still holding on to it when we should be letting go of it.
yeah,
It's like even people in our life, man. Sometimes we tend to go try to find a relationship that's going to solve our relationship that we have with ourselves.
right,
But it's like
right.
you're not going to do that. And to your point, man, it's wild because like the pain is definitely, sometimes we feel like pain is like punishment,
Mm,
and we have a hard time forgiving ourselves because we feel like we're still being punished, and we got to live in like some level of punishment, and like accountability and discipline are all these negative things. But it's like, it's not punishment, it's preparation. And this year I kind of realized that because I didn't know that I'd be speaking in a juvenile detention center, bro. And when I did, I mean, a week before that, I'm speaking at Fleming Steakhouse, Ruth Chris Steakhouse, these fine dining restaurants, teaching high
mm,
net worth clients how to have estate strategies to where they don't pay any estate taxes for people that have like 30 million or more when they pass away. So I'm helping those types of clients, with these massive strategies in their portfolio. And when
mm,
it comes to retirement planning and estate planning, and it's like, I got people saying, "Hey, man, you should come talk to these kids." And I'm like, "Come talk to these kids about what? Like what? They don't want to hear about life insurance. They're sitting in jail. Like, what am I
mm,
going to talk to them about?" And I said, "All right, I'll do it." And I was nervous, man. I stayed up all night, almost the night before, and I was like, "What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about? What am I going to talk about?"
mhm,
And it's so crazy because it was like I almost forgot where I came from.
mm,
And so when I was driving, it was an hour away there, it was wild because I was like, man, what am I going to talk about? And immediately it's just like God was saying, you don't remember all the stuff that you went through? You don't remember when you were rapping? You don't remember when you were selling drugs? You don't remember when, your dad wasn't around and all you wanted to do was have somebody to show you that they love you? That's probably a lot of the reason why these kids are in there. You could have been you.
mm,
You could have been still in there. Heck, you could have probably been in there for 20 years and learned all this stuff and still had to sit in there. And I was like, man, that's crazy. Like when you think about it, it's like, man, like some people end up in jail on a 20-year sentence, and two
mm,
or 3 years in, they finally change, but they still got 17 years to sit in there.
yeah,
We're sitting in a situation where it's like, okay, cool. Well, we're figuring out how to improve our lives and don't have to do that. And like my co-host on our podcast, The Value Race, he
mhm,
was he was in jail for 10 years in prison for attempted murder. And 3 years in, he gave his life to Christ. And for the next 7 years, he strengthened that relationship. And ever since he's been out, man, he gives all glory to God, and his business is incredible. So it's like, for me, I think to myself, man, like, we got the ability to hopefully help those kids now say, listen, let's stop focusing on the date that we're getting out. Let's start focusing on the date that we're going to change. You know, so that's what I went in there with. And they're like, oh my gosh, you know, this and that. And I got some of the kids that are like, you know, they're like, you know, and I'm screaming at them like ET, you know, and I've listened to everything that Eric Thomas has ever created. You know, I just indoctrinated it constantly over and over and over and over again in my head, which is crazy. Ever since 2013, I watched every single TGIM video. I would wake up and drive to work, and like, I didn't know there was even anybody else. I didn't know who Tony Robbins was. I didn't know, you know, who Inky Johnson was. I didn't know who
Zig Ziglar.
Zig Ziglar, or any of these guys. Yeah, I didn't know any of them. I just knew ET, right? And but then I got into Toastmasters. I won a couple of awards for Toastmasters.
That's what's up. Shout out to Toastmasters.
Yeah, man. You know, that helped me get really uncomfortable working on my public speaking skills. And it's just, bro, over the last, like, probably, I'd say like 18 months, man, I really went from a transition of like not wanting to prove myself still. Like, I was almost like, when I get in here, what are these people going to think about me? You know, like what can I do to stand out? And it's like, now I'm like, man, what do I think about them? You know, it's not about me being seen. It's about me serving. Where can I see a hole that I can fill a void to help, you know? And that's how I've been. And I even think to this day, man, I think sometimes my level of animation and my excitement, some people maybe, you know, and this is my perception, right? Because like, this may not even be true. What's so crazy is, like, an old friend of mine, he told me once, he was like, we're not who we think we are. We're not who others think we are. We are who we think other people think we are.
That makes sense.
You know what I mean? And I was like, man, that's so deep. But it's the truth. It's like, you may look at me a certain way, but the way that I think you look at me is how I feel.
Right.
You know, so I'm getting through that, you know, over the past like 2 years now. I've noticed that because, again, I found a great mentor. I was speaking in some of these big restaurants and doing advanced market strategies, tax-free retirements and stuff like that. And I started realizing, though, that I'm still not the guy that some people want. And it's hard for somebody that lived their whole life wanting acceptance to really feel rejection later on when they're trying something new. Because now it's like, am I doing this wrong? Am I not this guy? Do I not deserve what comes with this? And recently I've like said, you know what? I'm going to revamp my financial brand, and I'm just going to be me. And that's just what it is. Like, I'm not going to be, hey, my name is Franchesco Franzese. I make retirement easy. Oh, I shouldn't say that. That rhymes. Oh, hold on a second. Let me fix that. Like, that was me, bro, for like the past year, just really trying to go in certain places and be somebody that I felt that people wanted me to be, but it was exhausting, man. And now I'm in a place where it's like, I need to just free myself of all that so I can be myself and be my most creative state.
Yeah.
Because I do rhyme. I do like to do that kind of stuff, you know, still. And so I actually just hired a VA for the first time, and I got 2 employees. And really, like, even as we speak right now, I'm building my business back up with just really focusing on retirement planning in a way so people can understand it. So that's really it. I mean, like, you can see it here. It says we make retirement easy. You know, like Mr. Franzese makes retirement easy. So I just actually just created a new Instagram page, and you know, it's going to be all about taking these fancy terms and breaking them down so people can understand them. People don't know what a 401k and a 403b and an IRA and all that stuff is. You know, it's like, I'm going to break it down so people can understand it, and I'm going to have fun doing it. And if it works, it works. It doesn't, it doesn't. God's got a plan, and just trying to let go, man.
That's awesome. I mean, it kind of refreshes that phrase for me, let go and let God, in my mind a little bit. It's like, yeah, sometimes you got to try your best, but you got to let go of that wanting to know what the outcomes are going to be, because it's like, that's really not in your control. And it's, if you really knew, you probably wouldn't even start. You wouldn't try. You'd just be like, oh no, let me pick this one. Let me pick this one. It's like you're trying to pick out clothes. Like, is this fit going to work out? Like, are people going to receive it? It's like,
right.
Put on something nice that you like and get out there. Like,
I did that for so
just
long,
go enjoy.
bro. I did that for so long, bro. still have that little voice. Like, you know, I always say, like, we have these people in our head that and I don't want to get all crazy, you know,
No, you're
get a
good.
Baker act me, bro. But like, you know, I feel like we have these people in our head. We have the person that's like coming up with these creative ideas. Then we got a person that's like, man, I don't know if I would do that. But what's so wild is like a lot of people talk about like, which one of them are you, right?
Mhm.
I don't even think we're any of them, bro. I think we just hear them talking. I look at it like I'm popping up at the water cooler at the job, you know,
Mhm.
over there in the break room, and I hear these two people talking. Like, we're not our thoughts, bro. We just observe them,
Mhm.
right? So for me, I'm just in a place now where it's like, man, when I hear these voices in my head based on certain scenarios and certain situations, I'm like, man, one of them's talking a good game. The other one's talking about I shouldn't do it. But that one's saying I better do it because I might miss out. So
Mhm.
it's like there's really no right or wrong. It's really what do you decide to do with the opportunities that you're given? Because I've built a lot of great relationships through just telling my story, right?
Right.
And it's wild because like on Mondays, I just want to be a full-time speaker.
Mhm.
On Tuesdays, I want to make sure that I'm in my financial business. On Wednesdays, I just want to be a coach.
Mhm.
You know, because I host a and kind of goes back to not being celebrated my whole life, feeling like I wasn't celebrated.
Mhm.
So I have a personal development company called Win the Morning, right?
Mhm.
And I say if you want to win the day, you got to win the morning. But I've actually graduated that term to saying if you want to win the morning, you got to win the night before. You got to
Mhm.
be able to plan for the next day, right?
Right.
And
Right.
write down the wins that night from that day so you can wake up tomorrow morning and start with the wins from that day. And a
Yeah.
lot of people don't feel like, you know, this win is big enough or, you know, it's just never enough to celebrate. But it's like, man, if you don't get into a habit of celebrating the accomplishments, you'll never feel like you ever made it anywhere. And you'll always be searching for some destination that's never even going to be a place that you're going to be happy, you know, because you're always shooting for something. And happiness is not a destination. It's the journey.
Yeah.
And people say too, you got to be happy to be grateful. It's like, nah, man, like I believe that you got to be grateful and then you become happy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's where I'm at. So I host that call Monday through Friday. It's a free call, man. Like we probably have about like 20 to 25 people on there every day. From 8 to 8:30 Eastern time. It's called Win the Morning. If
It's pretty
anybody
cool.
is interested in going there, you can go to wegotanotherone.com. Like DJ Khaled would say, we got another one, right?
I like it.
Yeah, I had to get that domain. Maybe I'll sell it to him one day, but it's really just focusing on the gratitude of having another day. You know,
Mhm.
like I say, man, today's the gift that God gave us, and what we do with it is our gift back to God. Like I truly believe that like consistency is everything, man. And like you said before, you don't just wake up and like, I'm grateful now.
Yeah.
Everything's good. Like it's a muscle. It's just like going to the gym. Like your gratitude muscle might be out of shape and you got to work it out in
Yeah.
order for you to go ahead and become happier. And that starts with community, consistency, and discipline, man.
Mhm. For sure. And I guess one to your point, one of the things I got from that about gratitude was I guess I could call it a gift that a friend of mine gave me back in 2017, or they kind of pointed it to me. They're like, "Hey, you should check out this journal or planner called a Panda Planner," and it kind of does that where you write down three things that you're grateful in the morning, and by the night you write down three wins, and it's like the way the way it was created was by someone that had Lyme's disease, and
Mm,
basically he created the planner as a way to be able to remember because Lyme's disease
mm.
affects your memory. So he couldn't
Wow.
remember what he was doing day to day, month to month, year to year. So he went like, okay, let's have 7 days laid out. Let's have a week laid out. That way it's like you can review your day, plan your day. You can write down things you're grateful for, things that you're excited about or looking forward to, and you kind of make it work for you. So
Mm,
if you're not someone that's like, okay, at 7 o'clock, I'm going to do this. At 10 o'clock, I'm going to do this. At 11, I'm going to have lunch and da da da
yep.
da da. It's like, okay, you could kind of uh use it, and I've used it on and off since then, but it's like what I found, to your point, it's like when you exercise that muscle, when it's like, okay, what am I grateful for? I could say I'm grateful for my family, or I could be very specific, like I'm grateful for this sibling because they have this quality, or I'm grateful for the pen that I'm writing with because I'm making the effort to actually write. And it might sound like kind of redundant or like,
No,
but
yeah. To some
but
people it may. Yeah.
yeah, but like the more I did it, it kind of excited me to be like, oh, like I'm actually thinking about these things, and I'm
Mhm.
actually giving myself time to create something. It's like maybe nobody will see these 9 or 7 or 10 journals, however many I've used at this point. But it's like, um, even when I got tired of writing, it's like a subtle reminder to just be like, oh yeah, like you had a good day because you went out, you took out the trash, you made your bed, you you got one assignment done at work. It's just something, or you had a conversation with your mom, like kind of speaking to, you don't know when you're going to have those
You
things
didn't build
again
a whole
in the future.
house. You didn't have
Yeah,
a yeah, you didn't have a baby. You didn't have,
right, right. It's
yeah.
not just like the life changing moments, but it's like seeing the small things and being like, hey, to me this is a win, to me this matters. And then when I get to have like 3 wins a day, and then like 3 times 7, 21 wins, and out of that I pick like my big five, and I
Yeah,
have
bro.
that each week, and then I can be like, okay, this is what's going to make the next week good. That's just
Yep.
something that kind of, when I saw it and when I practice it, it just encouraged me to be observant of my life and just be like, okay, when it feels like it's becoming work and repetitive, it's like, okay, take a break. Like, don't judge yourself. Like, forgive yourself for just feeling like, oh, you were doing this, you're so consistent, and now you quit. And it's like you want
Yeah.
to do this. It's like, okay, like again, who's talking? Like, what's going on in your head? Is that you, or is that's just the dialogue? It's like, okay, you can kind of sit back, watch it, and be like, okay, old
It's that break
buddies.
room, man. It's
Yeah,
that break room. Those
break.
thoughts are just like you're walking into the break room, man.
Yeah. But it's like just when you brought that, it's just one of those things that connected for me, where I'm like, yeah, like my dad would always tell us that, count 10 things that you're grateful for. And he would always emphasize it and emphasize it. And sometimes it's like you don't understand why something matters when you're younger, but then like when you when you find value in doing something and you learn to appreciate it, maybe you don't run back to the source and you're like, hey, thanks for telling me this. And it's like, no, you do it, you learn from it, you just use it in some way that it matters or makes sense in your life. And
Yeah,
it's
bro.
like it's making a difference.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. No, 100%, man. And I think the biggest thing for me that I've realized to help anybody that struggles with like being grateful or really celebrating themselves is really just the bottom line, man. For me, like the days that I feel the best are not the day like the days that I feel the best are not the days that I did a million things, bro.
Mhm,
The days that I feel the best are not the days where I had the biggest accomplishments.
mhm,
They're the days that I was actually walking into the day with a plan
mhm,
that was a smart enough list that I could actually accomplish it. Not easy enough, but it was
mhm.
smart enough, right? And I actually did it.
Yeah.
Like the days that I said, hey, these are the 5 things that I got to get done today. One of them may be just making my bed. The
Mhm,
next one may be just 5 sales calls. And it's not focusing on what happened after I made the sales calls. It's just putting the effort in to make the sales calls.
yeah.
And we get so trapped on the outcome of things that it's like we let the outcome determine our happiness.
Mhm.
And it's like you can't control what somebody else does. Now you could control to maybe be 1% better, maybe overcome an objection a little bit better or whatever it is, right?
Right.
But it's like the days that I felt the best, man, and to anybody that listens to this, the days that you're going to feel the best is when you actually create a list and you check every box off that list. Because doing what you say you're going to do is your character, bro. And it's like, who are you when nobody's watching? What are you doing and what are you saying to yourself when nobody's around? Those are some of the most important things, man. And so writing a list and saying, hey, you know what? I'm going to write down 5 things.
Mhm,
Andy Frisella, he calls it a power list, right? He's
mhm.
like, if I do these 5 things, I won the day.
Yeah.
That's it. And they don't have to be, I just closed the deal for this much. I just got engaged. I just, came back from a 7-day cruise. I mean, that's not it.
Yeah.
It's what can you do consistently every single day? That's almost, I don't want to say easy enough, but that's possible.
Yeah.
That's possible, bro. Because a lot of us get depressed because our expectations of what we want to accomplish in the time frame is wrong.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like people take for granted what could be done in a long period of time. Like they don't set realistic expectations for a long period of time, and they overestimate what can be done in a short period of time.
Yeah. If
You
I
know,
could
so
if I could give you like an example of some things that I'm proud of for doing today, it's like I worked out this morning from a workout that I got from Dr. PI, Dr. Pat Ivy, you know him from the prayer line.
mhm.
Um I did that first thing. I got out of the house not too long after, went to play a little bit of disc golf, I think maybe 10 holes or something like that, because that's something that I started maybe around like last November, and then I'm circling back to it now when we're in June. And my whole goal with that was just I want to practice something that allows me to aim. Like I want to have a target that I can aim at and I can practice how I get there, whether it's like I launch something far or once I get up close, I've got to be accurate.
Mm.
And then a third thing that I was just proud of or happy about was I finally found a car wash where I could do interior detail to get a stain out of my back seat where
Okay.
I think it was last month, had just had some, food grease kinda spill back there, and it it's kinda it smelled good at the time, but it's got that lingering odor, so it's like, "Hey,
Yeah.
like, at least I found the place, if I've gotta go back, I can go back," but I kept myself accountable with my word to say, "Hey, I'm gonna sign up for this, workout plan, not only to promote it, but also to test it to be like, okay, hey, I trust Dr. PI. I want to support what he's doing. And I also
Mhm.
want to try it out to be like, okay, hey, here's what you can do. And then going out to do disc golf was just, okay, I'm doing this to um, enjoy an activity on the weekend at my leisure and just spend time outside, not being cooped up inside. It's like it's summertime, take advantage of it. You get to be home, like figure out the area, go explore a little bit, and then just the car smell. I'm like, it's been kind of bugging me. I meant to take care of it like the week of or 2 weeks after, and it's like I thought about it. It was on my mind. I didn't exactly make out this list first thing today or last night, but like just those things, I was like, I'm happy with that. And of course, I've got to round it off with like just being able to set up this interview and talking with you. It's like we just chatted earlier and you're like, hey, let's do it this weekend. I was like, heck, let's go because I get excited and um I get inspired just being able to have a conversation with someone else. And it reminds me to engage with other people and not be closed off. It's like it doesn't have to be an everyday thing, but it's
Mhm.
just make time and make room for other people and just share in that experience. So I just give that as just a few things to encourage other people and just be like, hey, make it your own. And once it's your own, it doesn't always have to be something that's a punishment. But if you actually make things that are reasonable for yourself to do that you can look forward to, you're more than likely to do them.
It's good, bro. It's good, bro. I mean, it's good. I mean, if you d- if you stay in the same environment, you're gonna live the same life. If you stay around the same people, you're gonna have the same life. Like you
Yeah.
have to actually have new experiences, new conversations, see that there's new things out there in order for you to have new brain waves occur in your head to let you see that even something else might be out there, you know? So
Yeah.
yeah, man, that's so accurate.
And I mean, even to that point, is to keep it maybe light, is like to be in a different environment and like looking at what you process through your eyes or through your mind and different things like that. I've been binge watching more comedic things, whether it's like on stories on
Hmm.
YouTube or reels on Instagram. I've been like purposely trying to find things that are funny and even
Mm.
like I like the inspirational stuff and things that get me motivated, but I'm like, okay, you're doing the things you need to get your life right and to kind of do right, but you also need to like enjoy play. So if it's
Yeah,
like
bro.
memes or other things like that, and just being in like a lighter state of mind, I'm like, okay, hey, like just enjoy this for what it is, and then kind of carry on from there. It's not, you don't have to always physically move where you're going, but like just change what's going on upstairs, or like look at something else, or just
No, for
give
sure,
yourself
bro.
time. But I won't keep you too much longer. I appreciate all the time you've given me so far. I'd like to ask
Oh, you're
you,
good, bro. Yeah, no doubt.
gotcha. Okay. I'd like to ask you two things. How can people
Yeah.
get in touch with you with what you have going on currently, whether it's the financial planning, the speaking, and whatever may be next?
Yeah, absolutely. So if anybody's in looking for anything from the wide range of life insurance, retirement planning, their IRAs, their 401ks, their 403bs, how taxes work, things when it comes to trusts and estate planning and wills, any of that. I mean, I do that every day, all day. That's where our company really focuses on, is helping people make sure that they don't run out of money in retirement.
Mm,
The biggest risk in retirement, it's called longevity risk,
mhm,
and it's not the risk of dying too soon. It's actually the risk of living too long,
mm,
because people are actually living longer than ever. So people
right.
are afraid to retire because they don't know if their income is going to be, sustainable.
Mhm,
And also with the stock market volatility. But we put together strategies to help people, no matter what happens in the stock market, they don't run out of money.
mhm,
And we help them prevent from having to pay higher tax rates that are going to be happening in the future, because we're living in the lowest tax rate economy that we've ever lived in before. And so with that being said, we've given out more money than we've ever given out before. So I'm sure taxes aren't going to stay this low.
mm,
So when we're deferring our taxes in these 401ks and these IRAs, we shouldn't be deferring them to a time in the future where taxes are going to be higher.
yeah.
So I help a lot of people, build a possibly have a tax-free retirement. So then if taxes go up 2, 3, 4 times, what's 4 times zero? Zero, right?
Yeah.
So, but if anybody's interested in any type of financial guidance, retirement planning, life insurance, those types of things, they can reach me. My last name, Franzese, Franzese, and then the word financial.com. You can sign up for a newsletter on there as well, that I have some really valuable marketing material that I send out to people. Not spamish, it's really good.
Mhm,
And then on Facebook, you can find me as my full name. It's Franchesco Franzese, as well as Franzese Financial on Facebook. Same on LinkedIn. You could just kind of Google my name and a lot of things will pop up. Let's go _ Chesco on Instagram. Um, and our podcast is The Value Race. So
mm,
it's at The Value Race on multiple platforms. You could just type in The Value Race on Google. We're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all those different platforms and so forth. But then also, if somebody's in a position to where they're a Christian entrepreneur,
mhm,
that's really wanting to grow through consistency and learning how to celebrate themselves, we do have a free call. Like I said, we do every morning. It's called Win the Morning.
mhm,
And you could go to wegotanotherone.com to go on there and actually sign up. And I'll send out the Zoom links once a week on Monday mornings to help people make sure that they could stay accountable to themselves, and so forth. And then also have some other levels of things like that for that if people need more accountability. But that's pretty much it. If that's not enough, bro. I feel like the guy that, is old school guy that's like, you're walking through New York City and it's like, hey, come here. And I pull out the jacket and I got all the watches. You know what I mean? Like I got all these different watches here. So, but I'm just an entrepreneur that wants to serve, man. And it's like some of these ideas in my head, I just can't hold them back. So they've been able to impact a lot of people and serve and add value to a lot of people's lives. So I'm just grateful for that. Just I just pray that I continue to stay present for my family and everybody around me, because the last thing I want to be is a public success and a private failure.
mm,
But yeah, that's pretty much it, bro. I'm grateful to be here with you, bro. Really enjoyed the time. And grateful that you allowed me to kind of share my story, and hopefully it served somebody.
yeah, it's my pleasure to have you, and it's it's exciting to see other people excited about life and also find find things that are purposeful and just a way to help others out, like when it comes to finances or just in life in general, and kind of reaching back to the younger kids and taking a chance to give back. I think if anything, I hope this is something that I'm using as a vehicle to do that, and we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, man. No, no, it's awesome, bro. I love the questions. I love the time, and I'm grateful that God aligned us together to have this moment. So
Yes,
appreciate you,
sir.
bro.
Until next time.
Yeah, take it easy, brother. God bless.
Thanks, you too.